don't know if she can do it. Well, I said I was talking to you, but do you even have that date available? And she has to be in Sundance. But she's gonna check with them to see if she has to be there in Sundance the 16th. If not, she'll do it. But if she has to be in Sundance the 16th, she can't do it. So then I'll call you, I guess.
Cross that bridge when we get.
Okay. She was gonna check with them, and I never heard back from her, and I hadn't heard back from you, so. And then
No, you haven't.
court reporter, Wyoming court reporting, who we usually use,
Yeah.
can't do it.
Kathy? Oh,
Yeah, she can't do it. So I'll call that other lady that we did that student hearing.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Hopefully she can do it.
they're
Otherwise,
all certain.
yeah. If she can't do it, do we have another person?
We'll cross that bridge when we get.
Okay. I was like, oh,
You need to work on that now.
I was like, don't they have, Wyoming court reporting, don't they have a couple people? I'm like, the 15th, everybody's back in school. Not yet. Hi. Hi, yes, hello. And it was good. No, I just did it that one. I did it at home the next time, and it was good. I should do it. Yeah, because I had to turn off my oven and turn it on and turn it off. It wouldn't go that low. I was like, but if you have an Instapot, it works good, I guess. Yeah. Maybe I'll get one for Christmas.
Order. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone to Laramie County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees meeting. I just got the word that we are not streaming tonight, live streaming on YouTube. However, the meeting will be recorded and will be posted on our website as usual. Just to let you know. And let's see, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, we do. A little more information on the YouTube and we'll have everything uploaded in the morning, but we are in YouTube jail for about 90 days unless they will allow us to work our appeal. We were over here making some changes and some upgrades, did some live work, did a little bit too much of live work in short stints, so they put us in YouTube jail for 90 days. So we are still working on trying to get out of that, and I'll let you know, I'm hoping by the 14th of January we'll be up and streaming live again, but until then we'll be there in the morning. But yes, Madam Chair, we do have an addendum. It does have 3 items on it. One is a contract for an SAP service agreement, renew of our annual maintenance costs for our service desk, and then approval of the 2020-21 school calendar. So those are the 3 additions to the agenda.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the agenda with adjustments.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Motion passes. And we are on to the recognition of staff and students for outstanding achievements. And we will start with the student of the week. We have 2 students of the week from South High and Central High, and Ms. Rennie will do the presentation.
Thank you. If I could have Principal from South, Philip Thompson, and also our Principal from Central, Fred George, come up, as well as our two outstanding students, Michael Martinez Montano from South and Jordan Johnson from Central High. Very good. I recognize these kids. That's a fun, it's going to be a fun night. So at this point in time, I'd like to, Mr. Thompson, would you like to start with talking about your student?
I'm going to let Michael talk about himself because he is a great young man that is part of our student senate and everything else. So Michael, it's your stage.
I just think it's a great honor to be able to receive this award, just kind of showing what our students at South are doing and showing that we're improving and things like that, and just showing how the foundations set in place at South are truly helping students like me excel and hopefully go on to a great future. Thank you.
And could we have the proud parents of the student stand up? Thank you.
Good evening. I would like to recognize our student of the week, and that's Jordan Johnson. And I too will let her say a few words, but a few things that Jordan may not say about herself that I'll go ahead and say. She's taken 13 honors or AP courses. She's a swimmer, she's in drama, and she's in speech. In drama, she's a state champion, and in speech, she's a national qualifier. And in talking to Jordan, one thing I really appreciated about her, being a Wyoming guy myself, is that she wants to go to UW, graduate from law school, and stay in the state of Wyoming as a successful attorney. So I appreciate any young person that wants to stay in this state and do good things. So I'll turn it over to Jordan.
So I'm Jordan Johnson. I'm obviously, thank you. I'm obviously a four-year senior over at Central High School. I've been blessed with the opportunity to get this education and to really see what Central High has to offer. And I'm just super thankful for being able to have this award. So thank you all so much.
Jordan's parents, are they here tonight? There you are. Thank you, and a little shout out to the newspaper, thanking them for featuring our students of the week.
I'm going to give this to Michael. I held on to this for just a minute because one of the things he didn't mention was the fact that he is a former Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year, and he's also, he danced for the Dancing with the Stars of Cheyenne to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club as well. So thank you very much. Here you go. Did you go through everything? Okay. Congratulations, Michael. Good job.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the Wyoming Biology Teacher of the Year, awarded by the National Association of Biology Teachers. Yeah.
I think you can stay for the next one too.
You're already coming up here, aren't you, Dana? I'd like to award Ms. Dana McIlvain, one of my former colleagues at Central, by the way, and I had the privilege to have her daughter in class, I believe. Right. So this is fun for me to be able to present this. Mr. George, could you present to Ms. McIlvain the award?
Well, first of all, I'd like to again recognize Ms. McIlvain. Ms. McIlvain teaches everything at Central High School from our basic senior level science classes clear up till AP Biology, and does a great job. One thing that I appreciate about Ms. McIlvain is she's very deliberate in her lesson planning, and when you go into her class, you can tell that there was a lot of thoughtfulness that went into her lesson design. The kids are engaged, and it's a fun place for me to visit. But Ms. McIlvain's also a National Board Certified Teacher, so that's quite an accomplishment. And then I just wanted to say that she's just a great employee, and we really appreciate having her at Central High School.
Well, very honored by this, I guess for two reasons. Number one is that I had to be recommended by fellow teachers and by parents and by my principal. And so to have that support, they had to write letters on my behalf, and I guess that was just really meaningful that they would do that. So students supported me, and teachers and parents. The other thing is I want to say thank you to the school district and to the parents and to all of you, because I have really benefited from professional development opportunities that have been given to me. Being able to go and learn from the best of the best around the country has been a huge privilege and wouldn't be possible without the support of the school district and the board. So thank you so much. And then I guess the last thing is it's a huge goal of mine to continue to try to get students excited about science and by being engaged, and so I plan on continuing to further my studies and my hopefully make each year a little bit better. So thank you very much.
Could we have her family stand? Because I know as a teacher, family has to spend a lot of time with us too, so could your family please stand and be recognized?
Nice job.
Congratulations. Thanks for teaching.
Congratulations. Thanks for all your hard work.
Congratulations. Great job. And then tonight we've recognized the East High Band, the Central Band, and the South Band. And tonight the Central Band, we get to celebrate their success at the marching band competition in Casper. So if they could come forward. And we have Ms. Clausen is going to present their award. So come on up, just line up in front of here. Our district has such a fantastic music program, and Mr. Ambrose is over there. He's shying away from recognition, but they do such a great job, and our high school band programs are an example of that.
Good evening. If we could also have Mr. George join us again. Oh, there you are. Okay. And then the band director, Kevin Madigan, assistant director, Steve Howard, and color guard director, Alyssa Maggio. Oh, she couldn't. Okay. I just want to commend you. I was fortunate to be involved in my marching band for 4 years in my high school years, and it was just a terrific experience, and I know your band probably has a lot of fun together. Congratulations on the opportunity and winning this superior rating. That's quite an accomplishment. I'll let you say.
Well, I guess I would just like to say thank you, and especially thank you to the board and the senior administration and Mr. George for all his support and Mr. Ambrose's support. I'm going to turn it over to our drum majors, Kate Hayes-Siltzer and Matt Pearson, and let them talk for just a minute or two about what the season was and things like that. So.
Hello. Okay, I'm Kate, as he just said. So I just want to talk to you guys about how we conducted this season. Our theme for this season was myths, legends, and heroes. And of course, as you see, all of these nerds behind me, as well as myself, we hopped right on that and we just enjoyed every minute of it. We started with Mars from the planet's theme, which was this really tough, like Roman god depicted in music form, of course. And we also did Marion's theme from Robin Hood. I'm so sorry. Robin Hood, of course. Game of Thrones. And for our heroes aspect, we kind of switched it up a little bit. Usually when we hear heroes, we think about superheroes like Spider-Man, Superman, stuff like that. We decided to do a real-life hero, which was the Mercury 7 astronauts, and we played the Right Stuff theme for our last piece. Throughout the season, I just felt that the energy of this band was just phenomenal, and the way that they conducted themselves, the way that they loved each other no matter what, and just really powered through the season, was really inspirational for me as well as, so many others. And I just was so fortunate to be a part of this band and to be able to lead them with Matt. It was really awesome. So thank you so much for the recognition that you're giving us today. And yeah.
At the 2018 All-State Marching Band competition, we scored a superior, which is the highest rating you can get among the bands. And then seniors and section leaders also won the Troopers Leadership Award. And I'm just really proud of this band. I think we're all proud of ourselves for our improvement compared to last season. Our marching improved a lot from last year, and as well as our just general attitude. So yeah, I'm just really proud of all of us.
Thank you. We have the parents. Band parents are a class unto themselves. Would all the band parents please stand up and be recognized as well? Thank you.
Congratulations, Central High Band.
And so, could you come back here and we'll all get a chance to shake your hands. Thank you. Yeah. Good job. Thank you.
Nice job. Nice job. Thank you. Thank you. Nice job. Good job. Congratulations. Good job. Nice job. Congratulations. Nice job. Good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Good job. Nice job. Good job. Good job. Nice job. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Great job. Good job. Nice job. There you go. Thanks for work. Good job. Good job.
Okay, we're now at the part of our agenda where it's a chance for members of the public to come and address the board with questions or really anything. But you have 3 minutes that you can take the floor and speak to the board. Is there anyone here tonight? Oh, we have someone? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Mary Wolf, and I am the president of the Para Association. I would like my assistant, Christine Fitzgerald, who is the treasurer of our association, to join me. This evening, I would like to recognize an outstanding para. Lana Pouliot, would you please join us? Lana has worked in education since 2003. She started working for Laramie County School District 1 in 2012 after moving here from Minnesota. She started as a special ed or special needs para. Then she worked as a behavior interventionist for 5 years before returning to the position as a special needs para. She has the compassion, love, and patience for special needs students that sets her apart from many people. Lana not only serves our students, but she also teaches fitness classes to employees after school. Her passion for fitness and wellness is evident when you see her in these classes. She has become an active para in our unit by volunteering to be on several committees, represent our unit at meetings and conferences. She has often volunteered to do anything to help our unit be stronger and more supportive to our students in the district. I want to say thank you, Lana, for your dedication, and I will let Christine present her with her certificate.
Thank you. We just want to let Lana know we appreciate everything that you do, not only for our unit, excuse me, but also for students and staff in this district. So thank you, Lana.
And I think we all recognize that paraeducators are a real integral part of all the instruction that our services to all our children. So thank you very much for all you do. Thank you. And just by the way, just another little footnote, with the streaming and the recording is we're going to get a camera that will pick up that podium as well in the future. So, okay, so thank you. Is anyone else? And thank you, Mary, for doing that. We'd like to recognize exceptional employees. Anyone else? If not, then we will move on to information and reports from the staff. Pardon?
Upcoming meetings.
I'm sorry, upcoming meetings first. So on January 2nd, at 6:30 PM, we'll have Parent Advisory Committee meeting right here in the boardroom. On January 9th, 4 PM, Policy Advisory Committee, Subcommittee number 1. January 14th at 5 PM, we'll have a board meeting that night, but we'll have a 5 o'clock work session followed by 6 o'clock at the board meeting. And then on January 15th, from 6 to 8 PM, the board will have a hearing on Podere Academy Secondary School, also known as PASS, here also in the boardroom. So that's January 15th, 6 to 8 PM. And and then moving on now for board communications and reports. The information and reports from the board staff. From the board. Oh, this is one. I'll get the routine of here. Sorry, folks.
Mr. Wiederspan first.
Oh, okay. So the board has a chance to share information. Yes, Mr. Wiederspan.
Oh, excuse me, Madam Chairman, I just wanted to go back. The meeting on January 9th, the Policy Advisory Subcommittee number 1, I didn't hear where that was being held.
It'll be in room 132, right next to my office.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else to share? Mr. Breen.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to do a shout out to Davis Elementary. I had the privilege of judging their being one of the judges with the science fair projects, and it was amazing. And Mrs. Calkins is doing an amazing job there. We had the participation was great. The children were outstanding. They had some super projects to go forward. I think we sent 3. Right, that'll go to the next level. And I wanted to shout out to those parents as well and community members that volunteered their time and helped to judge. I think we had 10, 12-ish, 12. It was a great turnout. So again, Davis, great job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Ms. Calkins, just to remind us, when is the district-wide science fair?
The district-wide science fair is January 12th.
Okay, January 12th, and it's in Story Gym?
We have a change of venue. We'll be out at LCCC because Story Gym is being used for, I think it's the East-South basketball game.
I see, athletics. So January 12th, the district science fair out at LCCC. Thank you. And Mr. Breen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a few things. First of all, I want to give hats off to the Cheyenne Central We the People team qualifying for state once again. It came to my attention that 2 of the top qualifying teams at the state happen to have within their school district the We the People program required for all 8th graders, and I would really like to ask this district to think about maybe getting that in with our 8th grade social studies curriculum. It doesn't take away from it and actually supplements it, but might be worth an idea to look at. Tied into the this whole civic education thing is that Mrs. Herman here sent me an email from Knight Papers in terms of a national survey regarding high school and junior high school students' feelings about the First Amendment. There were some really interesting things that came through in there, but what really caught my eye significantly was this, is that a larger number of kids than ever before think it's appropriate for the government to censor speech and newspapers today. And to me, that's a critical issue regarding civic education that we need to address. And so, considering that Time Magazine has made the press the People of the Year this year, so I thought that was significant. So, Mrs. Herman, thank you for forwarding that to me. And lastly, in terms of the area of civic education, I met with the director of the Malcolm Wallet Foundation at the University of Wyoming last week, and she wants to do some partnering up and working with civic education possibilities with school districts. So she will be getting a hold of various people around with that. And my last piece is, just so there's full transparency about my work with the State Board of Education, I've been appointed the chair of the National Association of State Boards of Education of the Professional Education Positions Committee, which does evaluation of how we're going to be nationwide looking at teacher training, etc. And then with the committee that I asked to be on, I'm very happy because this is the initial one that National Association of State Boards of Education are going full bore on early childhood education, and I get to be a part of it. And just to add to that, in January, the State Board of Education will be submitting to the legislature a resolution for universal early childhood education, but it would be voluntary. So the Wyoming State Board of Education is stepping up with this, and we're in line where the nation's going. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Baldwin.
This is one of my favorite times of the year because you get a chance to go to music programs. And during the last 2 weeks, my wife and I have attended 8 different ones across the district. I always try to choose different schools every year, just so I can see what's going on. And I also attended the concert from the Shine Youth Symphony too. And I'm really impressed. First of all, the kindergartners are always cute. But the other thing is there's so much growth from what the kindergartners are able to do and what they do in the older grades. You can just see that growth go all the way through there. So our staff is doing a great job at working with those students and their musical abilities. But there's also another part to it too. They don't just sing and play instruments. They also do rhythm things and also movements. And those are very cute too to see. So kudos to all of the staff that's been putting that all together. And I've really enjoyed doing that over the last 2 weeks. Also, many of those are actually held over in the administration building auditorium. And what they got to use this year was a brand new sound system in there, which is state of the art, crystal clear. And some of the kids are a little close to the microphone, so I think once they learn to use the system, it's going to be a super thing to have in there because the old system really didn't enhance the music very well at all. So great job to all of the music teachers, and the other thing is those students were so well behaved too. I could not believe it. So I'm sure they're not that way all the time with their parents out there in the audience. I'm sure it's they're a little bit on their best behavior, but it was great to see the good behavior and the wonderful music coming. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And is there anyone else, or Mr. Breen has something?
Just a quick addendum, and this is a proposal for the board for think about studying. For those of you out there and those people on the board who have been around the district for quite some time, veterans, I may say, there's this topic that's coming up again, and I listened to it and followed up on National Public Radio today, dealing with start times, particularly with our secondary kids. And the data that came out, particularly this is out of the University of Washington, Seattle, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, make it very, very clear the later starting time is going to be better for our secondary kids in terms of retention of material, in terms of fewer tardies, fewer absences, critical thinking. And so I'm just asking the board that maybe this second semester we can start studying it and look at it again. I know it was, someone helped me, 8-9 years ago that the board took a look at late start times and it never got approved. But in terms of my last years in the classroom where I was, my administrators, one of them sitting back there right now, busy looking at his cell phone, Dr. Newton, would talk about brain science. And this study out of the University of Washington is talking about brain science and how these adolescents respond. I think it would be due diligence on us to just take a look at it one more time. I'm not saying we need to jump onto that boat at this time, but I would like to see us study this semester and then take a look at possibilities and maybe 2 years hence make a movement in that direction if the board so wishes to look at that.
Thank you, and just to let everyone know that the board members are all going to come forth with proposals for studies, something sort of a deep dive on certain topics that we expect to be considering and voting on, or just for our information, and those be at the work sessions before our regular board meetings, and we're going to try to schedule those for the rest of the year. So just to let you know, and again, and those will all be posted publicly, and they are open to the public as well, and they're held in the executive boardroom here right next door. So we'll let you know what they're going to be on, and the schedule and that sort of thing, and again, the public is welcome to attend those. And that is certainly one of the topics could be suggested. Anyone else? If not, then we will move on to reports from superintendent and staff. I'll turn it over to Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first report tonight is from Mr. Jeff Stone. He's our CTE coordinator. I believe at earlier meeting we had some requests from the board to kind of give an update on that. So we've asked him to come and talk a little bit about that. So Mr. Stone, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Brown. Just really appreciative of the opportunity to come and update you what's going on in career and technical education. It's probably been a while since we did it formally, so I really appreciate this opportunity. There's a lot going on, but probably 3 things that maybe you haven't heard of since the last time I spoke with you. That's what I'm going to focus on tonight. One thing is our areas in career and technical education, just to remind you, are agriculture, business, computer science, family consumer science, healthcare, industrial technology, marketing, education, and TV media. And we have a variety of courses in each one of these program areas, several different offerings at the junior high and high school level. But the 3 things that I want to talk about tonight, one is the Habitat for Humanity project that we've had going for about the last year and a half. We've been partnering with Habitat for Humanity for about 16 years. And this last year, we have all 3 high schools, Central, East, and South High School, participating with Habitat for Humanity. And on 13th Street, they built a two-story twin homes. There's a lot of twos in there. But it was by far the biggest project that our construction programs have participated in. And this picture was taken earlier this fall. It's almost completed. If you drive by McDonald's on Lincoln Way and look towards 13th Street, you can see it over there. But it was real successful project, having that many kids and that many programs around one project. Scheduling, is difficult for the high schools because the singletons, don't get a lot of choices in when they can put that. And so just for the challenges to get all the kids there, bus there every day, we thought it went very well. And this will wrap up in the next month or so, and we have another project that we're hoping to participate with all 3 schools again on. We're going to go back to Messenger Court, where we've done, I think, seven builds there in the past. So that's what's going on with construction. The other thing that we've really added to in the last couple of years is our computer science offerings. And we've added a lot of coding to grades K through 6. We're coding during the computer science time that's set aside for the elementary schools. We're using code.org, and creative coding are part of our platforms there. And so the kids are coding daily, and Ramey Vandell is an instructional coach that has been assigned to the elementary and kind of assisting teachers and helping them as we teach kids to code. And that's kind of been getting started over the last couple of years, and now we feel like everyone is participating in K through 6. In 7 through 8, we did a little bit of reorganizing, added 1 class. We still have, we changed the name of it, but it's Intro to Office 365 now. It's basically the application of software. That's where that's found at the junior high level. And then we changed the name also to Intro to Computer Programming, and that's in the junior high where kids begin to actually start coding in that course. And then an 8th grade level class is called Technopreneurship, which the kids take the coding skills, computer science skills that they've created in previous years, and start designing and working in teams around a project where lots of coding is involved. And kind of the basis of our platform that starts in the elementary, we're using an Imagine Academy, which is Microsoft product that is kind of the foundation for our curriculum there. And then in the high school, we've also added computer science courses. We have a productivity pathway where it's basically application of software, more computer programming. We've had computer programming for a long time, but as you know, there's been a recent emphasis on coding and making sure that affects all kids. And we've bolstered those curriculums with Imagine Academy, especially for those folks in our district that are kind of new to teaching computer science and coding. And of course, we still have AP computer programming and IB computer programming as well. And then there is an infrastructure pathway, and we've also had these offerings for some time, and we've added to that a bit. But that's in the Intro to Technical Computer Applications. The kids actually build a computer from scratch. So they're seeing the technical side of actually building a computer. There's hardware maintenance, and that's an intro to networking. And so that's kind of the physical side of computer programming. And then we also added data science, which unfortunately didn't fill this year. So we haven't got to actually offer a class in that, but we have developed the curriculum and it's ready to go as well. And then in all these pathways, I apologize for that graphic, you can't read that, but you can kind of get an idea of what's going on in all four of those pathways through Microsoft. We can now certify our kids. We have certification tests. Everywhere you see a square on that graphic is another certification test that kids can take, pass, and those are all very recognizable by industry and what industry is looking for, especially in computer science. And we did get that started last year. We had a couple of kids test, and of course, they need to work through the curriculum before they're ready to test. We have a practice test that the kids can take, and then when they're ready throughout the year, it doesn't have to be at the end of the grading period or at the end of the semester. When the kids are ready in one of those certification areas, they can go ahead and test and keep moving. And so through those courses, it is a bit self-paced for kind of those high flyers that are really into it. They can move faster through the curriculum and earn certifications as they go.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I have a question before we go on to the other one. Two questions. First of all, are you having any trouble hiring people to teach these, especially the high school level classes?
Well, we're using our existing staff, and primarily we're using the business staff, which was mostly closely related to. And computer science, it's kind of a cool study to do, is kind of where these things came from. It kind of came out of the math department originally, and then over the years, kind of from the support from Carl Perkins and other areas in career and technical education, it was just a nicer fit there. And so it's been there for several years, and it overlaps our business curriculum in several ways. And so our business teachers are most closely certifiable, and they've done the steps required to become certified to teach. However, we do have some folks out there that it's new to them. And so, but with the Imagine Academy platform, it is definitely geared towards someone that's never taught coding before to be able to step into that curriculum and be successful their first year. So, I think it's definitely, in hiring practices, what, could be thought of when in replacing a computer science teacher to get bigger skills.
My second question is, each one of those squares where they're taking testing, do they have to pay for that testing, or is this providing that?
There is a cost, and the district is providing that now.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone? Yes.
Good evening. This is a very exciting
field of education, so it's great to hear it. Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
I was just curious about the certifications, and as you said, the high flyers can go as fast as they are able to. Is there opportunities for students to take internships or work with the industry, people, businesses out in our community that might need people who are proficient and have taken some of these certifications?
There is, and that's a great question because I apologize, I skipped over that in the last slide. The other thing that we introduced into the computer science curriculum is basically a work study. We're calling it computer science work. It's on there. But the idea is we've had some requests from industry, and so the kids can get credit by working in that industry and building their computer science skills within that. So we offer that, and it's much like our other work study course, where kids get credit by having a job.
Let me just ask you, did you have, Mr. Stone, did you have more in the report, or do you want to take questions now, or are you?
There is more in the report, but I'm happy to answer questions anytime.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and take questions now, and then we'll let you finish. I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Breen.
Just very, very quickly, Mr. Stone. Some of the people on the board are fairly new, either now or towards the end. Explain the Perkins grant and what the role of those dollars coming in from the Perkins tie in with state to help with your program. It was something I had to learn the hard way by that. So I think just a quick introduction to the Perkins program I think would be very good for the board.
Okay. Carl D. Perkins was instituted in the 1950s, and it is a federal grant. It's part of the consolidated grant, and Carl D. Perkins wanted to fund career and technical education. We called it vocational education back then. Our district, it's a competitive grant to the states. However, it's kind of an allotment based on your enrollment and participation to each district. Our state gets 4.2 million. And our district gets around 280,000. That fluctuates just a little bit. But Carl Perkins' requirement is to pay for career and technical education. So it's mostly, they want to buy new and innovative equipment for students. They want you to be installing the newest technology that you can put in the classroom. There's also a staff development component. And so that's staff development funds that we receive in our district for our career technical education people. That's where we send those folks, is the staff development portion of that.
Okay.
Those are kind of the two big arms that Carl Perkins would like to pay for.
And Mr. Wiederspoon, you had a question?
Madam Chair, Mr. Stone, I appreciate the information you provided, and when you started talking about the construction program, my ears perked up a little bit. I've been interested for a long time in opportunities that our students have relative to entering the trades. So I guess one of the questions I have is, do we have programs within the district that give students the opportunity to have apprenticeships or prepared to work in the trades and enter the world of work right out of high school? Do we have programs like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's the last part of my presentation.
Okay, I can wait.
So I'll be happy to come back to any part of this if you guys have questions later. But it's the other thing that's really been going on with us in the last couple of years is, Larry, I don't know how to do that. We've really started to focus on the workforce, and partly because it's them coming to us. They are so desperate for skilled labor. I just talked to Fritz Messer last week from Miller Insulation. He said he could hire 56 people today. And that's one industry in town of dozens that many of them are not bidding the jobs that they're capable of doing because they don't have the skilled workforce to do it. And so that's a big catalyst of them coming to us saying, how do we help? And in no time in my career have they been so eager to help us get skilled labor to them. But really kind of what jump-started it was the Next Gen effort, and I don't know if you've heard about that. It's the governor's initiative through the Workforce Development Office, and it's the next generation. And Laramie County decided to start their Next Gen group with the trades areas. And so they have met 3 times now, and maybe the best thing, and what that is if you're not familiar with it, was industry folks within the trades areas came around and sat around the table and said, what are we lacking, and what are the opportunities for us to add to that and get to what we need? And they identified 3 areas, and one of those areas was to recruit secondary and post-secondary students into the trades areas. So it just falls right into our lap. And outside the circle, where it was education, other interested entities got to listen to the conversation, but they didn't get to say anything initially. And so out of that, really, jump-started one of the best things to answer your question that we've had in a long time is through the Wyoming Young Contractors Association. Now they're an arm of the Wyoming Contractors Association. We have a 1 point of contact for any student in our district that's interested in the trades. So, and it's not been easy for us and you know, our counselors, our career counselors, to channel kids into the trades areas. You know, it's kind of by who the teacher knows or who the counselor knows, and to try to channel those kids there. Well, now we have 1 point of contact. If a teacher or a counselor knows of a student's interest, they can make this contact. Larry Fodor, who spoke to you guys about a month ago, he was really instrumental in making this happen. And Larry, through the Wyoming Contractors Association, is our point of contact. And then Larry makes the contacts to the different trades. You know, whether it be HVAC or plumbing, electricity, you know, whatever it might be, he'll channel that student in those areas.
Good deal.
Madam Chair, if I could
sure.
just follow up. Jeff, I just really appreciate your leadership in this area, and I know that rather than taking up a lot of the board's time this evening, I think it might be a good opportunity for a work session. It's something that I think that would be really valuable to me and maybe some of the other board members. I do know that there currently exists a memorandum of understanding with LCCC that addresses the issue of concurrent enrollment and opportunities for students to graduate and enter the trades, as well as accelerated courses. So I really do appreciate the information and look forward to having that conversation in the future. Thank you.
You bet. Which also is my next slide. LCCC has put in what they're calling a pre-apprenticeship program. And through concurrent enrollment, I'll go back to that earlier slide, but there's a nationally recognized construction curriculum called NCCER, and that's recognized all over the nation of basic skills that we need in the trades. You know, not just carpentry and construction, but all the trades areas. So they've packaged that. We're in the process right now of aligning our curriculum with the NCCER curriculum that LCCC will recognize. And the first tier there, which would be the first semester in their pre-apprenticeship program, can be obtained by our students through concurrent enrollment. And then after that first semester, then they can channel whatever interest they have in any one of the trades in the yellow boxes there. So if they have an interest in any one of those trades, then the next semester they'll get channeled towards that. And you know, LCCC they're pretty good at training incumbent workers. So they still have that arm and they want to do that, but then they've also added an associate's degree that a student can go on in any one of those trades areas and earn also an associate's degree, or just get a certificate and be working in the field. So that was another thing in the presentation that's been going on. They plan on starting that next fall, the fall 19th. And so the other thing that have been happening in kind of the workforce connection are our counselors. I think it was on October 19th, I think. We took 22 counselors and principals on a tour across our city. We saw 9 different industries. Simon, Knife River, bigger companies, and some small too, but we all got to hear what they're looking for in employees. We got to see what their challenges are, but all of them across the board are just desperate for skilled labor. And no, like I said, no time in history are they so eager to work with us and channel kids in those directions. And off of that, we've had industry folks into our schools. Some have talked to an entire class. Some have talked to individual classes. So that's been a really good thing happening. Of course, I talked about the concurrent enrollment that's being developed with the NCCR curriculum. And so just off of that next gen conversation really that we were involved in, we've really we feel like we've got some momentum going, and it's really at one of those tipping points where we really need to ride it right now, because industry's on board, they're ready, and we certainly want this opportunity for our kids, because we do recognize that we've been a bit lacking in that pathway to get kids there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's come up since then, Laramie County's partnership is so great. They're the only county in the state that now has started another next gen group, and it's hospitality management. And so they've met for the first time. And even before that, we had a hospitality management agreement with Triumph High School. And so channeling kids into a hospitality work experience out at Little America was already in place. And now, just like the construction and the trades industry, those folks sat around a table. It was real interesting. They came up with 3 different ideas that they wanted to work on, and one of them wasn't developing post or secondary recruitment. But we still fit into that, but probably in a little lesser of a way. And we're seeing that more apprenticeship opportunities, concurrent enrollment opportunities, which we already have with LCCC. We have one with CWC. We have them in Sheridan College. And we're seeing the thing grow to a point where the possibility exists of maybe even a workforce partnership coordinator to maybe continue to expand this. Because I've talked about 2, the trades areas and hospitality management, and those are kind of the leading employers in our state. Well, they are the leading employers in our state, but we could go lots of different directions with that, and just more and more opportunity for our kids. And so we're just seeing the need for that and where it could possibly go in the future.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Green.
Mr. Stone, I've been following this for some time. My key question is, how effective are we in terms of communicating to our high school counselors as they sit down with our high school students and direct them into those areas that they'd be interested in? Because when you and I were colleagues at Central, there was a tendency well, you're going to college, aren't you? There wasn't a discussion of these other possibilities where they can step into a well-paying job and build a career. How effective are we communicating to our schools to get the information to the kids?
That's a great question, and I think we're getting better and better. And I will be completely honest, I'm not against it. All 3 of my own children took advantage of it. But the Hathaway Scholarship, because there's money tied to that, it's mom and dad's first idea. And if there's money tied to that, you have mom and dad's attention. And so the trades areas and opportunities other than that, just kind of naturally becomes second. And so it's just a continued conversation with the counselors, even the teachers, and our workforce partners that, hey, these opportunities exist, let's not forget about this. That, lots of students don't desire a four-year education. Lots of students, there's lots of great opportunities to go right into the trades and make a great living that we heard on that, our field trip with the counselors that day. But I think there's more and more traction in a society that is realizing it's not all dirty fingernails anymore in the trades area. They're great careers, and I think they've kind of had to overcome that themselves. And so I think everybody's kind of coming along at the same speed, but industry needs us to move faster because I'm definitely not an expert in what's going on, but what we learned on that field trip, 3 missile bases have been giving $90 billion. And so we would logically get $30 billion. And the design on that is coming in 2020. And every industry we talk to is already spread as thin as they've ever been. And so they're already desperate for industry, and our communities is going to see a lot more wave on the trades areas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more, Mr. Foley?
On the NCCR curriculum, is the intent to offer one of those classes in each of our high schools, or are they going to be taking that out at LCCC?
Well, I think they'll be able to take it at LCCC, but it can fit inside of our construction curriculum that we already have. And if you compared our curriculum to the NCCER curriculum, we're basically doing it. We need to align it a little bit like we do with all concurrent enrollment, but it won't be a standalone class by itself. It will be embedded into our construction curriculum.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, Mr. Wiederspoon.
Madam Chair, do we have a copy of Mr. Stone's PowerPoint, or can we get a copy of that? Or
yes.
And yes, Dr. Brown can get a copy and pass it on to all of us?
Yep, Darlene will have it.
Meaningful glances, we are all on the same program here, and well, thank you, and I appreciate your efforts to take advantage of a situation that is going to help the local economy and also help our students it sounds like they graduate from high school, they can hit the ground running and develop really excellent careers and professions. So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to say we've always had great support from our building administration, our district administration in career technical education. And as I travel the state and the country, we really are ahead of a lot of folks. So I applaud all of your efforts for supporting what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stone. All right. Okay, moving on then. Next on our list, a 45-day review of earth science and biology curriculum materials. Ms. Calkin, our district coordinator for science.
Good evening. I would like to invite all of you to join the rest of our community and our teachers anytime from January 7th to February 28th, either on the second floor of the Laramie County Public Library or in the Math, Science, World Languages office, room 318 of the administration building, to take a look at earth science materials for our 8th graders and biology materials for our high school biology students. Please stop by. Your comments are welcome. We want comments from the entire community as we start our adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the acronym is MERSER, but it's the most cost-effective remedy study update, and that's in reference to the State School Facilities Department, and we'll hear about that from Assistant Superintendent of Support Operations, Dave Bartlett.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you. So just to let you know, we will begin working with Plan 1 Architecture and the Wyoming School Facilities Department after winter break to do a secondary Mercer study, or as you said, most cost-effective remedy study.
The study's needed, or its need is predicated by the fact that we're approximately 200 students over capacity in grades 9-12 district-wide. And so the Mercer study is something that is statute-driven and within the rules and regs of the Wyoming School Facilities Commission. They will ask us to study this, see what kind of non-construction and construction alternatives there are to address the overcapacity situation. Currently, there are 2 districts that are in this boat. It would be Teton County and Laramie 1. So we will actually be meeting with Plan 1 tomorrow to develop a calendar, and then we will bring that back to the board. But typically what will happen is they will create a stakeholder group that will have building level administrators, principals, teachers. We would most likely ask that 2 board members sit in on that. And what they will do is they will look at growth trends 5, 10, and 25 years out. To determine what what our growth patterns would be. They'll look at economic growth. Mr. Stone just mentioned the BASE project. We know that could obviously have an impact on our enrollment. And then they'll also look at community growth trends, including housing patterns and those types of things around Cheyenne. So they'll take all those things into consideration. They'll develop some scenarios, kind of walk those through, price them out. I would venture to say during this we'll have probably a couple work sessions with the board to share the information with you, get your input, take it back to the group, and then move forward. And ultimately the end product, and I know my veteran board members, you know we've done this with the elementaries a time or two, we'll bring that finished product back to you, and then it'll also need to be presented to the Facilities Commission. And they will use that information to determine whether any future appropriations for Laramie 1 in the secondaries would be necessary, and that's kind of the mechanism that starts that.
Just a question, so is this study going to be paid for by the school facilities department?
Madam Chair, yes it is. The money was actually appropriated in the last session for both Laramie 1 and Teton, so it is on their dime.
And how long will it take?
We will vet that out tomorrow. I can tell you that originally they looked for a very short window, like they wanted it done in 4 months, which I think
I've had a little pushback on that, Madam Chair. I would rather do a much better job than get it done quickly.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like they're waiting to write us a check anyway, so I think doing it thoroughly and make a good case for whatever.
And we would agree with you all wholeheartedly. I know their intent was to try and get it done quickly and timely so that they could get it through joint appropriations in any remedy. But as Dr. Brown said, you've got a lot riding on this with Laramie 1. We've got a lot of shifts in enrollment patterns, a lot of things economically coming. So we do want to make sure that we take our time and get the best product possible.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Bartlett? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to get presented the 2020 and to 2021 calendar committee process, and that will be voting on it later in the meeting. But presentation, and Dr. Kinney was going to present. She has some health issues, so we're going to hear about from Dr. Brown.
You get the B team for sure on this one because I have not been to any of the calendar committee meetings, but will do my best. I do know that I have 2 board members that were on the calendar committee, so whenever I mess up, feel free to just jump right in there and help me out a little bit. But before I do that, I wanted to remind you guys that you do have some homework. So you have your PASS application notebook, and we will have our hearing on that right after we get back from the break over Christmas. So just a quick reminder on that.
Madam Chair, Dr. Brown, as I was looking over at that PODARE PASS material, I would appreciate if we, the board, could get an overview assessment of the materials that they want to use for their classes from our curriculum coordinators, the material they want to use for math, the material they want to use for social studies, so I can have a better understanding of how effective this material will be for those students. as we have the hearing.
Madam Chair, Mr. Breen, are you asking for samples of that material or just the name of the
Just
material?
evaluation, that our language arts coordinator, science coordinator
okay.
can look at the material and see if it meets the muster that they claim is gonna be there.
We can do that. I'm not so sure we're real familiar with some of it, but we'll do the best job we can there.
I'll apologize to the coordinators out there for that request.
With that, I'll start talking a little bit about the calendar. You should have a copy of the draft calendar. A couple things that we have to remember, if Cheyenne's anything like my last district, everybody wanted to start school after Labor Day, end school before Memorial Day, have 2 weeks for Christmas and at least a week spring break. And so starting knowing that that's kind of where everybody would like to be is very difficult to get there because there are some things that we really do have to make sure that we take care of. So the first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that all of our students are scheduled and go to 175 days of school. During the calendar committee, they always schedule 176 days of school in case we have something that happens and we would miss a day or something. The next thing that we have to make sure is statutorily we have to have 185 contract days for our teacher contract. So that means that we have some time before and some time after that we do a little bit of professional development, and our district also puts 6 professional development days during the school year so that we can work on something over the entire school year. We do have 1 planning day, and then we also have 2 parent-teacher conference days. So those are kind of the days that we have to fit inside the calendar. My understanding is this year, they talked about quite a few different things, but really the only substantive change that we made the change from Veterans Day being a half day on November 11th. So historically, we've had only a half a day and an early release on Veterans Day on November 11th. And we've moved that half a day to September 4th, which would be the day before Memorial Day weekend this year. We did do some survey with that. My understanding is we had close to 800 responses, and 52% of those that responded were in favor of that. What would happen is we would start school on August 24th with students, but prior to that, again, we would start with building staff, planning days, new staff orientation, and all of those things. But students would start on the 24th of August. We would end first semester on January 15th, and then we would move forward, and the last day of classes would be June 3rd. If we did not have any snow days, elementary would be able to release at 10:30 and secondaries at 11:30 that day. If we did have a snow day that we had to make up for, our elementaries would release at 12:15 and our secondaries at 11:15 that day. If we have 2 snow days, we would add May 28th as a makeup day, which is currently a planning day for staff, but students would come on the 28th if we did wind up with 3 snow days. So again, we would move forward with a similar calendar that we've had in the past. A couple of things that we would have to make adjustments for. The first one would be sometime in April. We would have a day where we would have half a day or a planning and early release, and then our students would take the ACT assessment as their 11th grade assessment. We do have spring break scheduled in for March 29th through April 2nd. The Christmas New Year break would go from the 21st of December through we would not start school again until the 4th of January because the 1st would be on a Friday. Let's see. Let's see, where's Easter? I think March. So I believe, yeah, Easter's in, I may be wrong there. But we've planned to have a very similar calendar to the calendars that we've had in the past. I know that we've run into some problems with the ACT. I think we would probably look at that as we move forward. But with that, I would allow either Madam Chair or Mr. Boland to bring anything forward that was talked about in the committee that I've kind of left out.
Ms. Rowland.
One thing I would notice that's a change on this one is those 3 days before school starts. We've changed the order of those a little bit. Normally the 2 staff development days would come first and the planning day last. And we decided it would be better to move that planning day back into the middle. So you do the building staff development first on the 19th, then the planning day for the teachers on the 20th, and then on the 21st, which is a Friday, you do the all district staff development. So those have been rearranged a little bit. And we're back to the full 2 weeks at Christmas time, which everybody appreciates. I know we're not doing it this year, so we'll be back to having that nice arrangement.
And a full weekend for spring break as well. So I guess at this point, any other questions concerning, yes?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I do plan on having a discussion and debate when it comes up for motion.
Okay, very good. All right, yes.
That's my
And
report,
that's
ma'am.
it, okay, so, and, so then we're going to then, at this point now, move into the agenda with the action items. First thing we're gonna do is, approve the consent agenda, and just for everyone's information, all agenda items listed with the designation of CA, consent agenda, are considered to be routine items by the governing body and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items, and any item may be removed from the consent agenda. If someone wants to vote on them separately or discuss them separately on the board, they can ask that or to be removed from the consent agenda at this time. And is there any desire to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Well, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I don't know that I want to remove it, but I want to make a comment on an item.
We can remove it, and then you can, there'll be
Make my comment on it?
discussion on that, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
then
And
it
what
would be.
What item is that?
It is the, well, actually, I want, oh, no, it is, it's this one. It's the, library system.
Oh, the SAP,
The contract to renew for the library system. So is that, where is that one on the consent agenda?
D2A.
A1.
2A1, which is on the consent agenda, so we'll pull that off. Okay, we will take that up individually. Are there any other items that board members would like to have removed consent? Even if it's just to be able to discuss it separately, that is a reason to. Seeing none?
Madam Chair, I move to approve all motions listed as consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission to renew the contract for library systems for amount not to exceed $37,000.
Second.
You have heard the motion, and we're going to have some discussion. Ms. Tyler?
Madam Chair, so I just think, I wanted to make a comment about, sometimes we think about safety of our schools and our students, and we think about like safety of the facilities and things like that, but if you really look at this, one of the things this is designed to do is that it monitors students and staff who check books out in the school library. And in the field that I work in, I was at a training recently, and there was some individuals who had committed some crimes. And what they were able to do with those children is they were able to go back into their school history, and they were able to look at the books that they checked out, and they were able to correlate that these kids had been checking out some pretty violent books and all about kind of committing violence. So I think it's really interesting. I think sometimes we think about safety as just about the building being safe or students, but really this is, I'm happy to see that we would be able to do this kind of a thing. And I hope that there would be some kind of a trigger in the system that if we had some kids that were approaching on some real books at a regular basis that might be of concern, we at least have a mechanism to maybe look at that at some way. So I'm still in favor of this. I think it's another way that we can keep our kids safe.
The monitoring aspect of it. Thank you. Did anyone else want to comment on that item? Seeing none? Then we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion to renew the contract for library system, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission for IB Science students from East High School to travel out of the United States to Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia in June of 2019.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Does anyone have a comment or question? Yes, Mr. Oh, we just won.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just think this is an outstanding opportunity for our students, and it's just incredible that they are able to do this. You know, it's kind of thing that certainly didn't exist when I was in high school. Of course, I probably would not have been in IB Science either. So, but I think it's, and I read the backup material, and for the public's information, the cost of the trip is being paid for by the students and the parents. So I just think it's a great opportunity for our students, and I just want to give, a high five to the program that allows them to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Heiler, did you want to?
I agree. I think it's a great learning opportunity. I also am realistic, and I look at the world today, and the world today is getting much more scary. And I do worry about the safety of our kids. I'm glad to see in this that it talks about safety as one of the things with the tour. But we can't forget that when we send our kids over to other countries, we are running risks. We are, there's always risks that can happen. And so we need to be making sure, even countries to our, down to our south, Mexico is not a safe country in many respects. And we just have to realize we are sending it, all this is flashy and we're like, oh, this is so great. We have to understand that there are risks. So safety is of concern even when we send our kids to other countries, but I agree, it's a great learning opportunity. Just my voice about safety.
This motion came to us from Ms. Zumo. Teacher, is she here tonight to answer, to respond to that at all? Yes.
Madam Chair, we have a representative from East High School. So if Ms. Bartlett would be a good substitute for that, I'd let her come up and speak.
Can you respond to the issue? I know that the materials indicated there's a contract, a company that is going to be, that has a good reputation for taking care of kids abroad. Do you know anything more about that?
Madam Chair, what I do know is that they offer do 24/7 care, so there is someone watching our students 24/7. That's what I know.
And it sounds like they are well vetted and have a good reputation for taking care of kids in situations far from home.
Yes, Madam Chair, we've used them before.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comment on that? Okay, is everyone ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion to permit East High students to travel to Southeast Asia, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resignation of Jan Schmitzer effective Monday, December 17, 2018 due to personal circumstances.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resignation of Christy Gatlin effective Wednesday, December 19, 2018 due to family medical reasons.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Are there any questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission to increase the contract for elevator maintenance services for an amount not to exceed $40,000.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to increase the contract for elevator maintenance service, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission to contract for ShoreTel VoIP maintenance and equipment for an amount not to exceed $400,000.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission for multimedia equipment and supplies for projectors and projector lamps for an amount not to exceed $150,000. For document cameras for an amount not to exceed $25,000. And for cables, sound systems, and other miscellaneous audiovisual items for an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Are there any questions or discussion? Yes, Ms. Harlech.
Maybe I missed it, what school will these be, being placed in, or is this various schools? I hear it, I see a head shake. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Various schools.
Various, yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Brown, Ms. Hyler, that is correct. There'll be various schools, this room potentially could be a candidate as well.
I know that one time it was out at Johnson Junior High School, and we talked to the principal, he's here, but they were in need of sound systems when they had large gatherings. They didn't have quite adequate. Is any of it going to go to Johnson Junior High that you know of?
I can't speak to specifics like that. I know we've used some versions of pieces and parts of these to help with those kinds of projects, though. That's something that the principal at Johnson would need to probably coordinate and get on the board as a project.
Here comes Mr. Bartlett.
Thank you.
He's got a better answer than I do.
Do you have a better answer, Mr. Bartlett?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the Johnson sound system's being addressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to contract for multimedia equipment and supplies, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Now we're onto the addendum.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission to renew the contract for an SAP service agreement for an amount not to exceed $82,212.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Is there any questions? Yes, Ms. Clausen.
It's not really a question. I just want to note that I had a conversation, Dr. Brown, with Mr. Harmson today, and he was great about explaining just what we're doing to renew this contract and why we need to have it. Apparently, it's for auditing purposes and required that we keep our records for 7 years. And we have 2.5 more years in which we need to contract with this company. And you can contract annually, and they're proposing a 2.5-year contract instead, which gives the district a discount rather than pay the annual cost for the contract. And I just wanted to say I appreciate that you and your staff are fiscally minded. I know I'm probably not the only board member that appreciates the efforts by the staff and by you, Dr. Brown, to get us the best contract deals we can get. So thank you.
Any other? Yes, Mr.
Just to comment, I'm glad to see we're going to finally be able to retire this very expensive SAP system. Seems to continue to haunt us even after we have left it, so.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to renew the contract for an SAP service agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to grant permission to renew the annual maintenance for the service desk software for an amount not to exceed $28,552.80.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to renew annual maintenance costs for the service desk software, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the proposed school calendar for the 2020-2021 school year for Laramie County School District Number 1.
Second.
And I just make a note, there's a typo on the agenda here, but I don't think
Title, yes.
that doesn't have, I don't know if that will affect, we'll just make a technical correction. But so you've heard the motion, and was there, Ms. Heiler, yes.
Okay, so I have some very strong thoughts about this calendar at this point in time. I understand that we have a calendar committee, and I know that they work really hard to do the best that they can, and I also understand that they did some researching or some polling of people. But I have to voice my concerns. One thing that we have to remember about data is we always kind of look and we kind of want to say, there were 52% that were in favor of cutting out Veterans Day. You have to look at, there were 48% that didn't. It was not a unanimous, it was not an overwhelming, it was not a preponderance of everybody. It was just a few more people that said yes, that they wanted to cut out Veterans Day. I am, and will continue, and I've said this for years and years, I'm appalled that we would cut out Veterans Day in this community. We are a community of veterans. We are a community of military. We have a military base here. We are doing a disservice by us not doing this. Every state government is off, county government is off, city government is off. A lot of businesses take it off, and we, as the district, do not take it off. That concerns my heart a lot. I understand that we used to have half day, and people used to tell me that they did great things on that half day. They had presentations. They did great things. But now we're even going to cut that half day off. I do not support that they moved the half day to September. We will only have been in school for 8 days, and we're going to get a half a day off and a whole day off. And we're not going to take Veterans Day off. I would love to see rather an idea where you take October staff development. If you're gonna still work on that day, you take October staff development, you move it to Veterans Day, you make the staff and administration work, and you send those kids home. You let them be with their families. You let them go out to lunch, where Texas Roadhouse has deals and specials for families to do things during that day. You have activities. The governor last year was at the Civic Center and did a whole kind of a deal on Veterans Day. I think it is sad that we do not honor Veterans Day, and so I will be voting against it. And I would hope that others of my fellow board members would also look at this strongly. What message are we sending in a military community that everyone else honors this day and we do not? What message are we sending?
Is there any other comment or?
Madam Chair, let me ask this question, Ms. Heiler, because I understand where you're coming from. Would it feel any better if we highly recommended out to our buildings that there would be appropriate lessons that day, similar to what we were doing at one time for 9/11, in terms of commemorating that we asked that the schools do some sort of appropriate lesson, given memorialize and commendation to veterans? Would that help you at all?
It made it better when we had half a day, and we advocated that. We are just treating this like any other day, telling students, just go to school, we'll have normal activities, normal curriculum. Your parents are gonna be off, and your parents can go and honor Veterans Day, but you have to go to school. So no, it doesn't make me feel any better. It does not. I still concur with a half a day. I don't know why we moved half a day to September. I don't know why we chose to do that. Why did we think, okay, well, 52% said it was okay, but 48% of the people said no, it wasn't okay? Again, I have strong feelings. We're a veterans community. We have a military base here. We are not honoring the military by what we're doing with our district, and I'll continue to feel that way, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Having been on the committee and part of that discussion, part of the discussion on moving it from November 11th is there's another half day off on October 28th, and that ended up being very, very close to that one. So those two would be very close together. That was another reason why we considered moving it to September 4th. So, and in the past, whenever we've done surveys, we had the very close results on the survey a couple years ago, if you probably remember, on whether we wanted to end before the end of June. And we tried and had a shorter spring break, and we tried that one year, and then we went back to this. So, but that was a very close survey too. So, and I never understood why we didn't never try that again, but we must have got some bad input on how that came about. So I would like to leave it as it is right now and honor the work of the committee and see what kind of comments we get. And I really would hope that we are going to do some activities. We still have it as listed on the calendar, and November 11th, it's still listed there as an important day. And I would hope that the classrooms would be able to come up with something, the schools would be able to come up with something on that day.
Madam Chairman, I'm just gonna say, but we give Equality Day off. I don't understand. I don't understand why we think that that is not an important holiday. I don't. When in a military community, I really don't. I would advocate that we send this back, or I'm not gonna vote in favor of it. I won't. I just can't.
Yes, Ms. Clausen.
Madam Chair, thank you. I had not thought of that holiday not being off for our students, and so thank you, Ms. Heiler, for raising it to my attention. I tend to agree with you. This is a government town, and it's also a military town. And I do know, having worked in different classrooms across the district over the last 2 years, that curriculum is geared around holidays. There's usually all kinds of holiday-related materials that students are doing, at least in the younger grades for sure. And I was just in a class in November where they were doing Veterans Day materials and the history of Veterans Day and Veterans Day related stories and things like that. So I think that some of that's already taking place. I would like to see it be considered by the committee again. I'm sorry I didn't realize this, but I am just weighing in that that's the way I'm leaning at this point.
Yes, Mr. Wiederspahn.
Madam Chairman, I guess this is a difficult one, but I do know from my experience in the district that appropriate activities have always taken place either close to or on Veterans Day in the buildings. And I think, and the ability of a student to participate in an in-school activity that's related to Veterans Day or curriculum-related activities that honor our veterans is more often, I think, more appropriate than just sending them home, and many of those kids will just watch TV. And so the question then, and I do respect Ms. Heiler's, position, the question then is, how do you appropriately honor a particular day? Is the appropriate way to honor a day is to give the students the day off? We do that with other days, but I wonder if that's always the case. So I think there are other ways to honor the day than to send students home. I like the idea that Mr. Breen brought up about, strongly encouraging teachers, and I think they do this anyway. I know principals did it. We did it when I was at Dildine, and I know that was really the only activity many of those students had that related at all to Veterans Day, because their parents either weren't veterans or were so busy they didn't involve them. But I know it's a tough decision, but I think if we were to encourage or ask Dr. Brown to encourage our buildings to provide appropriate activities that relate to Veterans Day, I would be happy with that. So I plan to vote for the calendar at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further?
I'm just gonna make one other comment. So what is any different than the Equality Day? So what makes us give Equality Day off and not give Veterans Day off? They're two great holidays, but one really has to do with we are a military town. So why we choose not to give Veterans Day off and why we choose to give Equality Day off is just unbeknownst. I don't know why we choose one day over the other. I guess I would advocate maybe you alternate it. 1 year you do Equality Day off and 1 year you do Veterans Day off. Then you would have a balance between those two holidays, but I just don't understand why we pick and choose. Why we as a district pick and choose.
I'd just like to weigh in on my experience this last year, and actually over several years of the calendar committee. And there is a lot of discussion, just as we're having up here. I think one of the biggest comments that came back out of last year's, even at the half day when we approved that, was the fact that it's vitally important for most of our parents, even when they're not veterans, to make sure that our students are recognizing the holiday in some way, that they're learning something about it. And the majority of the feedback that I got was that there was a great program at my school today, or they did honor, they had a assembly, or they did a full history on what Veteran Day means and what, you know, what surrounded that, the circumstances, and continued on, what do we look forward, how does that, you know, how does Veterans Day in the future look as well. So there was a really innovative program about following up on what that looks like in the future and how we honor that day. So I think that just knowing how much work goes into this, and I think that I understand where you're at, and I'm going to trust my teachers and my administrators to make sure that they are going to recognize that day with the recognition that it needs to be, that it deserves. So I will be voting for this, but I do understand your position, Mrs. Heiler. Thank you.
Okay.
Just want to remind everyone else is closed that day. We're the only place that's open. The city is closed, the state is closed, the county is closed. We're the only people that are open that day. Nobody's answered my question why we do Equality Day and stay open for Veterans Day. No one's been able to give me a good reason why we do that, so I will continue to.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Rowland.
I really like your idea of alternating between the two. So I think, are you gonna be on the calendar committee? Did you sign up for that one?
I did.
Certainly, I hope you advocate for that.
I will advocate for that.
I think that
yes,
is probably a good idea, so.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the 2021 school calendar brought to us by the calendar committee, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so those are two, Darlene, so they're Ms. Heiler and Ms. Clausen voted no. And, okay, but the motion passes. That will be the calendar for 2021. And we may see changes in the 21-22 calendar, apparently. Very good. And moving to future business. The next regular board meeting will be held Monday, January 14th, 2019 at 6 p.m. with a work session at 5 p.m. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, just reminding you that that's our only meeting in January. We've done that to try to give people an opportunity to get things in, promotions to Darlene, so that, because if we didn't do that, we would wind up trying to get them in over Christmas break, and sometimes that doesn't work. So we have just one meeting in January. You guys worked on that, I believe, in June last year and approved that. So just a reminder that that's our only meeting in January.
Okay, thank you very much. And do you know what is the work session? What is the topic of that?
I do have if I remember correctly, there's three things. One is the facility plan, long-range facility plan. We'll have some discussion about that. Number two is the capital construction amount that we've received from the legislature, and some discussion about that. Dave, I can't remember what the third one is. It's the Dave Bartlett show, though.
I don't remember it.
Oh, yep.
Darlene, can you refresh my memory?
I just thought I'd give a little preview, but the public will be able to find that online when the meeting gets posted on Board Docs. So if you want to know more about the work session, you'll find more then. And at this time,
Madam Chair, I move to go into executive session at this time prior to adjournment for the purpose of possible long-term student suspension expulsions.
Second.
you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? We are in recess, executive session.
Well, you know, I.